This is Kreskin with my weekly What's on My Mind. Today's a very special day. It's National Prayer Day in the United States. And you know, folks, with what we've all been going through and much of the silence around us, this is an opportunity to reflect and think perhaps about the significance and the possibility of prayer. I'm going to share something with you that not many people know about. Oh, I knew what I wanted to do for a living. It was imbued in me when I was 5 years old. And by the time I was 9, I was already performing. I was performing in third grade and for local affairs and what have you. But at the same time, with all of this going on, my family, a large family of Polish and also Italian people, there was a rumor in the family that yours truly was going to become a priest. It wasn't one or two people that said this. I later on learned that it was a fair number, even though I made it obviously known that I knew what I wanted to do. I'm a thought reader, a mentalist, and intended to travel and perform all my life all over the world. Well, life went on. I went to Seton Hall University, where I received my degree in psychology, but with a minor in religious training. Performed at Mount St. Dominic, a Catholic school in Essex County, New Jersey, and now there's a major university there as well. The teachers there were nuns. I got to know them well. A very interesting article in a Catholic journal some years ago has a picture of me performing for an audience, all of priests, except that on the stage of the dozen or so subjects that volunteered for hypnotic demonstration, they were all Catholic priests. Well, I got to meet someone that was a hero in my life, and I didn't know him. He was on television every Tuesday opposite Milton Berle, who was the power thrust in television in the early days, #1 show, 1 hour. But Bishop Sheen broke his ratings at one point. He had a half-hour show. He only spoke. He didn't preach. He spoke the good word, and a powerful personality with a great sense of humor. Friends of mine, Jewish friends, watched him. I had friends from other religions, atheists watched him that I knew. He really spoke powerful words, and I finally got to meet him. Incidentally, he won an Emmy, you know, the television award one year, beat Milton Berle at that particular time in a certain rating. And when he received the Emmy, walking out in front of millions on camera, he thanked everyone. He said, I also want to thank my writers, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. And everybody talked about it the next day. Well, I got to meet him because a lot of times I was performing at companies or gatherings where he was also a speaker. So I'd come up to his hotel room, 2 beds in this hotel room. I said, Bishop Sheen, I'm noticing this pattern. That's what I have in my hotel room when I travel. He said, for the same reason, Kreskin, I nodded my head. On one bed he had all his paperwork. He says, the only way I can prepare myself and think for my weekly appearance is to walk around and move. I said, you should see me late at night. That's exactly what I do, Bishop Sheen. Well, he found out that my family thought I was going to become a priest. And his favorite story, when he was appearing at events where I was also due to come on, he says, I want to tell you something about Kreskin. You know him as a mentalist, a man who reads people's minds. He said, you know, his family thought he was going to become a priest. Just picture Father Kreskin. The night before First Holy Communion, where us young people study hard, the nuns are very strict on what they teach us, and we're having to go to confession for our first communion the next day. And Bishop Sheen said, Father Kreskin is in the confessional pew, which is a small cabinet area, waiting for each youngster to come in. And finally, Johnny nervously in this darkened church opens the door and walks inside and kneels down. And it's very dark and very enclosed. And Father Kreskin opens the panel and says, young man, tell me your sins. And Bishop Sheen says, Johnny is nervous and says, Father, I lied to Mother 6 times. And Bishop Sheen says, Kreskin interrupts Father Kreskin and says, that's not true, Johnny. It was 10 times and you know it. So his humor never stopped. Now I want to share something with you that I'm extremely excited about. And that is a new book. The book is written by a man whom you know. His name is Mike Lindell. How do you know him? From Pillows. Oh yes, doing some of the most successful commercials in recent years. At one point, the #1 commercial in the United States. I've watched these commercials. I don't know the man, but I'll tell you something, and he's written this book. Mike Lindell's written a book called What Are the Odds? It's his life story. But the commercials impressed me as it's impressed many, many millions of people. He has a naturalness. He has a genuine, soft communication. He reminds me of a person most of you don't know about. Years ago in broadcasting, the most powerful single human being who ever did commercials, even though he was also an entertainer, was Arthur Godfrey. And to describe him is the way I would describe Mike Lindell. Empathy. Psychologists use that word to describe Godfrey. And Mike has that. And it communicates it so well. This book is something to read. And in this quiet time, I suggest you take the opportunity of his life story. It's an adventure because he was a coke addict and he was also a compulsive gambler, a card counter. As familiar as I am with cards and blackjack and poker and what have you, you can understand when you read the dramatic scenes. In some cases, he almost thought he'd lose his life, where he played and won tremendous amounts of money and also lost every penny he had. Up until a few years ago, when he discovered God and the power of prayer. This is a remarkable book. And the dedication he has is very simple. He dedicates it to anyone who's looking for hope. I'll tell you one thing. I strongly feel that when you read this book, you will find this an incredibly inspirational experience. I'll see you next time. May the good Lord willing.